All right, so welcome back. It's good to see everyone. Want to start out by just thanking a few groups as we kick this thing off. But first, our players. I thought this spring they did an outstanding job. They attacked the process. They had a ton of energy. I think one of the cool things that you saw leading into the summer is how much time they spent with each other, just building that bond and that trust, especially for the new guys that were coming in. But that was good to see. Even the guys that went down to Florida and prepared with Justin. Our coaches, I thought they did a great job in the spring, continue to make improvements and coaching our guys up. And again, just like the players, building that relationship with the guys to have that open communication and trust. And then finally, the performance team and athletic trainers. You know, I don't think people understand how much time they put into these individualized plans to get players to their peak performance. If that's, rehab, if that's nutrition for their body weight, or just overall strength and explosion. We really aim to be the best in the league at preparing our players, and I think they did an outstanding job. So we're excited about the season. We've improved our roster. We've improved continuity, and we're excited about that. We're excited about raising the level and raising the expectations. I think great teams have high expectations, and they go chase that, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to do that in training camp. So right now our focus is hitting training camp, continuing to improve our players as individuals, and then the units in terms of the communication and working together so that we can have success during the fall. I know there's going to be a lot of questions about contracts. I'm not going to get into the contracts, who we're talking to, who we're not talking to, and all that. When we have something, we'll update you as soon as something happens. In terms of injuries, the first wave of guys came through. Everyone's been cleared. We're pumped about that. And just like when I talked about the performance team, our guys are going to continue to monitor them and make individualized plans in terms of workload, reps, all of that. So we'll be in touch with that to make sure everyone's in a good spot so they can be successful. In terms of updates, I know everyone saw Claypool got cleared off of PUP, just needed an extra day or two to get him right. And we're excited about him. He's been working hard. He's been spending extra time with our staff, getting up to speed. He's been with Justin, building that relationship with him so they can play well together. And then finally, just recent roster changes. Buddy Johnson we added, as well as Isaiah Ford. Pass to Coach.
Yeah, so you saw when you walked in today, the flag 34 representing Walter Payton. Respect to him on his birthday. Start off with that. And I too want to also credit the players and the staff and the coaches, for the work they put in the spring. It was big for us to be able to work on the individual guy and their mind, body, and spirit. We did a nice job with that, working through those. And then also really with the guys in the summer. I issued a challenge to them. They had 40 days in the summer to come back in great shape. And we've seen several of those guys or talked to some of those guys here. And body comps are down, lean mass is up, strength and endurance is up. So we're excited to see where they are as we get going today with the conditioning test. And then really this is all about, this training camp for us is all about skill development. It's about, strengthening the individual man, the unit, the positions, the unit, and then our football team, and then really development of the schemes. We're in process in the spring of developing a big part of our schemes, and that's important for us to continue to do that and really push the guys to push the envelope and to get better, each offense, defense, and special team. So we're going to be doing that here. And then really the look for us as the coaches is that, who are our elite competitors? We want guys to compete at an elite level. And that's going to be evident, once we get the pads on. Of course, we have our ramp-up period, but we want to make sure that that is going to be a big focus for us because that's how you win football games. And you do that day in and day out, and we're excited about being able to enhance those guys. And we got a new football team, as you know. We got a lot of guys that are brand new with the last two draft classes, and then all the free agency guys that we picked up. And we're excited about bringing those guys and keep bringing those guys together as a football team. So with that, we'll open up to questions.
Ryan, you've mentioned setting high expectations, and you've talked in the past about building a championship mindset with this group. When you articulate that to players, what are you pushing for them in terms of that championship mindset?
Yeah, I think it's, I think you got to boil it down in terms of just, mastering your craft first. And I think that then bleeds into the entire unit. And looking at yourself and being honest with yourself, where's my strengths, where's my struggles, and really attacking those struggles to improve the game. And then it's a mentality of, I think you got to have that confidence to, I want to walk into the stadium and our team to walk into the stadium believing that they can win football games and not hoping.
Hey Ryan, just to confirm what you said about Claypool, does that mean he's good to go, that he will be able to practice in full tomorrow?
Yep.
Ryan, you talked about managing expectations in players and how they're dealing with it when they come to games. But for you as a general manager, how do you manage expectations of yourself, knowing that you only have one full season under your belt and it takes time to build a winning team? How do you manage it for yourself to not get too ahead, but also not be too lax in your preparation?
Yeah, I think that's sticking to the plan. When you look at the big picture, building through the draft, supplementing through free agency, I think making sure that your decisions that you're making are sound for where we are right now and not putting us in a situation where it damages some of the work that we've done and the path that we've kind of set up for ourselves moving forward. So really managing those two, and it is difficult sometimes. You want everything right now, trust me, like you really do. But you got to make sure that you're making sound decisions so that you can stay healthy and stay in a position to sustain success over a long period of time.
Ryan, this is admittedly a little bit open-ended, but what do you expect of Justin this year?
Just improve. Like I said about looking yourself in the mirror and self-assessment, taking where he wasn't good and continue to improve that. And a lot of those things, that's a beautiful thing about football. You're relying on other people around you too. So really controlling what he can control, looking at himself in the mirror, self-assessment, improving those weaknesses, and really attacking that in training camp every single day.
Where specifically do you want to see him improve?
I mean, you want to see him improve everywhere. Obviously, what he did with his legs was outstanding, but, in the past game, look at the different scenarios, situations, 2-minute, and continue to improve that.
Ryan, when we've talked with you, and I think it was right after free agency, it was about the defensive line. You said that there's still going to be holes on the roster, and the idea that there might still be an edge rusher out there has come up a couple times. Do you still see an opportunity in the next couple days, weeks to add depth at that position?
Yeah, I think that's another beautiful thing about this game is, everything right now is on paper, but there's guys that we have high expectations for that are on our football team that we hope to develop and take that role. But at the same time, we're always going to search to improve our roster. So if it's a defensive end or any position that we think can enhance our team, we're going to stay after them and stay engaged and see if we can improve our team that way.
When you talk about raising the expectations, you have a lot of unknowns between guys that you drafted or seeing how Claypool and Mooney come back, things like that.
Yep.
What do you think this looks like if everything goes well? If everything goes the way that you're planning it on paper, what's the high end for what you've built here?
Yeah, I don't want to put a ceiling on what we can be, but I know our goal is always to win the division and be a championship caliber team. That standard's always gonna be there. And I would even say, I think every year, regardless if you're a Super Bowl team or wherever you're at, there's a lot of unknowns. So that's what makes our job really hard is you constantly have to adapt and adjust and be on your toes to make adjustments and try to be the absolute best that you can possibly be.
You hold guys to standards or you hold the roster as a whole or Matt to standards. Is the standard the maximum of what you think it can be? When you look at them and say, here's the high end of the range of possibilities, that is the standard of
That's the championship mindset that we talk about. The standard is being champions, and the entire thing, being Super Bowl champions, is always going to be what we're putting ourselves against. And because you got to shoot for that every single year, and you got to have that mentality in order to improve and get to where we want to go.
Ryan, in January, you were kind of chagrined to have the #1 overall pick, especially after losing 10 in a row. Now that you've seen the dust settle from what you've gotten out of that pick, do you think that having the #1 pick will end up being more beneficial for the organization than if you had finished 6-11 or 7-10?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I know that the opportunity that presented itself allowed us to do some really good things to help our team get in position to be successful for a long period of time. So I don't know what would happen if we didn't, but I'm happy with where we're at right now and where we're going.
Ryan, what will aid Justin more this year? The additions you've made on the roster to that side of the ball, or coming back, not having to learn a new playbook, continuity with the coaching staff, that type of thing?
It's tough to choose one or the other, but I can tell you as a player, and we both played, when you know what you're doing, you can play more instinctive, you can play faster, you make decisions faster. So I think that's always big. And then obviously, again, the beautiful thing about this game is you're relying on everybody else. So the more talent you have around you, you can be successful. So we hope both of those things end up being true.
Ryan, when you look back on your offseason plan, what are you most proud about how you and your staff executed that plan? And then conversely, what's something that maybe you wish had gone a little bit better or is yet to be fully realized?
I would say, I think, kind of to Mark's point, like the ability to really help our team right now, but also continue to set ourselves up for the future. I think being able to do both exceeded my expectations, which was really cool. What could I have done better? I mean, there's always things there. It's hard to tell right now. I think we need time to see, because we'll do after action, in a year, 2, 3 years to see what we could have done and adjust to that. So it's hard to say right now.
Ryan, with that in mind, most of the players you've acquired, obviously in the draft, but also in free agency, are younger and more with long-term, looking down the road. How fine is the line between that philosophy and getting an older player who can put you over the top if you see you're in contention after so many weeks into the season or even heading into the season?
Yeah, it goes back to your original question. To me, it's setting us up where we can have continuity, where we can have guys that are going to be here and play with each other for a long period of time and create a core for us. I think sometimes you're definitely going to need bring some older players that can come in and help us and bring maturity and experience and wisdom to your team. That's always a piece of it. I think if you go over the line and do too much of that, usually with those contracts and things like that, they can actually hurt you down the road.
Are you waiting to see how much of a contender you might end up being before you kind of go to that part of getting an older guy who might not be here for that long but can help you win, make the playoffs, win a play, whatever, this year?
I wouldn't say that, but like if that scenario popped up right now, I wouldn't hesitate from adding a player if it made sense to us.
Where's Mooney at physically, and what are the expectations for what he can do in training camp, preseason, that type of thing?
Yeah, he's worked his butt off with our training staff. Obviously, he cleared to be a participant in practice. And like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to use our data. We're going to use our performance staff to monitor where he's at. We're going to make sure that we have the right plan so he's not pushed too fast, but we're also not going to go too slow either. So we're going to just make sure it's right for him as an individual plan to make sure by the time we get to the season, he's rolling.
So with Tremaine, how have you seen since the spring? How have you seen him acclimate and sort of establish himself pretty quickly as a guy that's going to be a key part of what you do defensively?
Yeah, it was fast. It wasn't just his presence on the field, but also he brought that group together and the defense together, even if it was away from the building as well. Did you see anything, Tremaine?
My first question comes from Ryan. I was waiting. Yeah, it's gonna be good. Yeah, it was great. Him and TJ do a really good job of sitting together in the meetings, communicating on the field, and they bring a presence in there in the middle of your defense, which I think is very important to have that strength in the middle. So we're excited to have them.
Matt, when you talked about schemes and maybe some of the changes that you'd be making this offseason, where did you start on the defensive side in assessing where you might need to make the biggest adjustment?
You talking about scheme or personnel?
Scheme.
Yeah, I would just say that, just starting with the details of the basics. We always do that. We build our ground floor from there. And then we really look at the skill set of the players, who does what well, and then we kind of enhance that based on the scheme, So, if you have a second level player that can pressure, we would, send that guy more. If you have a guy that could, a pass rusher that can move inside, we'd move him inside to a certain spot or get a one-on-one we want. So we're always looking to do that.
Do the additions to the roster though, and what you've been able to do over the last couple months, does that help maybe expand the capabilities of what type of plays you can call, type of
Yeah,
defense?
sure.
Yeah.
The more skill sets you have and the better talent you have, you certainly can expand your scheme for sure.
Matt, you said you want elite competitors. Do you have anyone in that locker room that can lead your guys that way right now that you kind of point to?
Yeah, there's several guys, I'm not gonna point out a bunch of guys, but obviously Justin Fields is an elite competitor. He competes at the highest level. Tremaine Edmonds is an elite competitor, and this is a couple guys I'll name, but we have several guys that we've added, like I said, to the last couple draft classes and the free agency we just had, that are in that mode that guys will look to to model after.
Ryan, is there anyone other than Mooney? You said that everyone was cleared. Is there anyone other than Mooney that's gonna be on like an acclimation period here to get started or a ramp up?
I think those guys haven't had practices like from the spring, so we're gonna do that for everybody just to see where they're at, conditioning, all of that, because everyone's on a different plan. But I mean, Mooney's one of those guys that we'll track and make sure he's in a good position before we just add everything.
Is there anyone else with an injury issue that you're going to limit them at least at first?
Not that I can think of, but yeah, I mean, we're gonna monitor all of them.
Ron, I'm gonna ask you a contract extension question.
There you go.
Yeah, obviously, week one's always the general timeline, but we haven't really been here with you when you've extended a player at this time of year. Is there a time when you'd like to get it done? Is it week one? Is it the middle of camp? Is it early? What's your preferred timeline if you are gonna get something done?
Yeah, there's no preferred timeline. It's when it happens. If I was in that position, I would want it done sooner rather than later. So soon.
You feel like you're close on it?
Not gonna talk about contracts.
Coach, this kind of dance between you and Ryan, right? Last year, he's kind of needed to strip this thing down and obviously limited some of your on-field resources. This year, he reinvests a lot of those resources for on-the-field things. Do you think that kind of like shift? I mean, obviously, I think that comes with some understanding with the performance that we saw last year. This year, with the investment back in there, you think that kind of swings the pendulum back to where now he needs you to kind of prove him right in some of the decisions that he made this time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would just say that we're just, we're in a day-to-day business, right? So we're looking to enhance our players, day one all the way through training camp and see where they are, and then let it fall where it is. But certainly having better skill and having more players at each position that are in that upper part of the league, I think it's certainly helpful.
Okay, is it my turn?
Yes.
When you have made as many changes as you had to your roster, both of you, coming into year two, Kevin Warren is here, there's a different energy around here. How different does it feel on report day from a year ago to now?
Yeah, I mean, just, like we said, we know each other better, the staffs know each other better. We've been able to implement, our culture into the building, through the scouts, to the coaches, everybody, and then the addition of Kevin coming in has been awesome. So yeah, we're in a better spot. I mean, for sure. I mean, it's just the nature of having the experience and the additions we've had.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, the energy is outstanding in this building. Everyone's on the same page. I think everyone loves coming to work and working with each other. And I think the big thing is once you get that you're on that second lap, all of the tweaks and you go through all of these and say, okay, we need to change this, adjust that. You can start tightening stuff up, and we're going to continue to do that all the way through. But that's exciting because I thought the process early was good, but we're going to continue to improve to make it great.
Ryan, with Darnell Wright in this next 6-week period as he kind of gets ready for his first season, what are the things you zero in on to measure progress, I guess, with him at this stage?
Yeah, it's just there's a technical piece in terms of just the little details to improve. There's different habits that you have in college that you got to clean up that aren't going to work as well in the league, and then the mental part of it too. There's a mental toughness part, like in terms of those hard days, tough opponents that you want to make sure that you're locked in and loaded. For that, and then I know obviously just knowing your assignments and playing fast. Usually it starts a little bit slow in terms of executing at a high speed, and as you get more comfortable, you can play faster. So that's what we look for, and I do want to give that kid credit. Like this offseason, he busted his butt. He is down. He lost weight. He lost body fat. He absolutely crushed the conditioning test. Like didn't break a sweat. So he's focused. He cares. He wants to be really good.
Brian, in the offseason, you, seemed to indicate that you would add an edge rusher. I think sooner rather than later was what you said. But are you certain that you will add one before the season starts? And if you don't, will you be happy with what you've got?
So obviously there's no certainty of it takes, two to make sure that it works out. So there's a level of patience that comes with it. So there's no guarantee. If not, no, I'm excited about the guys that are here. Walker's done a great job. Robinson's coming along. Gibson's coming along. So I'm happy with the guys that are here, but obviously we're going to look to improve if we can. So if it works out, we'll attack it.
Hey, Matt, a couple more. What day is the first padded practice?
Wednesday, next Wednesday.
Not till next Wednesday?
Yeah.
And I guess a little off topic, Ryan, but did you watch the quarterback show on Netflix?
I am through the first one, like halfway through the first one.
Okay. Just in general, kind of curious what you think of it, and then the organization's stance on Hard Knocks and shows like that is pretty well known. If they came to Justin,
Yeah.
asked him to do it, and he wanted to do it, is that something that you would be okay with?
So I would first say that's an internal like conversation we would all have to see if it benefits our club to do. Hard Knocks, that's a tough one because I really believe that there's, this is like a family setup where we have a lot of things going on in our building that you want to keep private. There's conversations. That's really tough. I mean, if we all threw a couple cameras in our house and our bathrooms, like kind of weird, right? But I also understand the access part of it and the fan part of it that it's cool to see. So I'm kind of split on it, to be honest with you. But I know from my position, that's a tough deal to have cameras. Matt's lived through a whole season of it.
Brian, I know that things are subject to change, but the same 5 offensive linemen that we saw during the spring, it seemed like a pretty consistent first team group. How beneficial is that for them, for Justin, and as a former offensive lineman, having gone through that, to know there isn't a lot of moving parts, at least as of right now?
Yeah, the more a group can stick together, the better they work together and communicate and all that. But you'll see there's always going to be tweaks because as you go through the season, there's going to be injuries, so you constantly have to rep new pieces, being inserted into an O-line so that you can pick up that communication where you left off. So, but yeah, anytime you can have a unit work together, it's important.